I spent 20 long and grueling hours learning the top 3 Yu-Gi-Oh decks to teach you how to destroy them. Big dogs, we are back yet again with another meta counter guide. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to beat the top archetypes from the new Justice Hunter set, K9, Dracotails, and Yummy. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, big dogs? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! Y'all didn't see what I did. I'm gonna show you what I did because it was kind of cool. I got that mic jack in me. I said an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! For Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that's your day. Phenomenal. But if it isn't, I don't know what I was doing. Don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it, guys. The 3 new Yu-Gi-Oh decks in Justice Hunters are not as strong as I originally thought. While K9 is going to be played everywhere, both Yummy and Dracotail have their fair share of restrictions that I'm gonna give you the information on how to exploit. So as per usual, I'm going to be splitting this up into 3 different sections: how to beat Yummy, how to beat K9, how to beat Dracotail. I'll be giving you important information and tips on how to play against them, the most effective hand traps and spots where to use them, as well as cards that are amazing for them in the side deck. But I'm also going to give you my thoughts on this upcoming format. It's it's kind of cool. While I think by far the best strategy here is K9, Yummy and Dracotail actually do deliver as what's promised. Really solid Yu-Gi-Oh decks that you might see a lot of because they're strong, and Gooner's goon. So let's go ahead and start off with the best of the strategies and then move progressively downward with K9. So a quick tip about K9 is that they can be activated when the opposing player activates monster effects from the hand and the graveyard. It's actually really important that I point that out because I've noticed that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players will attempt to activate a K9 monster from being Impermed or Dominus Impulse. And other Yu-Gi-Oh players think they can't be K9 because they didn't activate monster effects in the hand, but used a card like Ame no Mitsurugi or Fiendsmith Engraver. Brother man, both of those card effects can activate in the graveyard. K9 brings an entirely different dynamic to Yu-Gi-Oh, punishing players from activating monster effects in the hand or graveyard. My best suggestion when you're going against this deck is that if you play a strategy that doesn't require you to activate monster effects in the hand and graveyard, the deck actually does struggle. And what has been crazy strong against K9 and Yu-Gi-Oh strategies that implement K9 are board breakers. They are way stronger by a country mile. And the last and most important tip I want to tell you guys about K9 is that K9 Vanquish Soul is not the only powerful K9 deck. There's also K9 Memento and K9 Crystron, which are arguably just as powerful and do some of the craziest things. And the fortunate thing is that I've actually made meta counter guide talking about both Crystron and Vanquish Soul, so you can check out those particular videos if you want to see how to counter that particular part of the deck. Now, I'm going to be focusing mostly on K9, but I will try to give you information on the other strategies and what to use when they're combined. The most important thing is to understand if your opponent is starting off by normal summoning their K9 cards, odds are they don't have a great hand. All 3 of the other strategies, Vanquish Soul, Memento, and Crystron, have a preferred normal summon that they want to do. So a lot of times addressing the K9 card the correct way is probably the way to win. Like for example, if your opponent starts off by normal summoning K9 Aizuno or Jokel, using Infinite Impermanence on those cards is typically a safe bet. But if they get to special summon these monsters to their side of the field, you're gonna have to save that Infinite Impermanence for K9 17 the Ripper. Especially if you have other monster effects that you want to use throughout that turn, K9 the Ripper is going to prevent those card effects and also gets them a search and a set. Using Infinite Impermanence on this card is crucial. And if your opponent starts off with the other engine like Vanquish Soul, Crystron, or Memento, they're actually good spots still too. Using this on Mat Lover Razin isn't a terrible idea, but keep in mind, like I said, if they have a big Vanquish Soul monster to bounce, you can get cooked. The fortunate thing is that they don't play a lot of those in Vanquish Soul K9. Against Crystron, it also gets very jumbled. You can actually let a K9 player go all the way through their combo and wait till they get to Heavy Stormer with your Infinite Impermanence. Using the card on River Stormer, my apologies, prevents them from getting Scrap Recycler, which gets them into full Crystron combo. Against Memento, I'm not gonna lie, you're low-key screwed. If they lead off with Memento cards, you can try to stop stop the Memento cards. Hypothetically, if you know they don't have Bone Party, Memento Fusion, or they're not playing the Goblin Biker spell card, using this card is probably best to use on the Fusion monster Combined Creation. But I'm not gonna lie, Memento just might cook you anyways. The deck is crazy. With Ash Blossom, it's a lot more tricky, seeing that it's a monster effect that you can activate in your hand. To be honest with you guys, Ash Blossom's best bet is against the Charmies. But against this deck, if you absolutely have to and they normal summon Aizuno or Jokel, it's fine to use it there. Keep in mind, when you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you're gonna have to make a decision tree based on what's happening. There is a world where you Ash Blossom these cards and they completely cook you because you did. But to be honest, they were probably cooking you anyways if they had all this follow-up despite you having the Ash Blossom. They lead off playing Vanquish Soul, you 100% stop the Mad Love, the Razin, or their Stake Your Soul, unless the Stake Your Soul is revealing Halisu, Razin, or Mad Love. Those cards specifically, because Stake Your Soul cannot special summon the same monster that it reveals. If they reveal an Earth monster, it gets really tricky. You see, a smart Vanquish Soul player will not reveal its fire monsters, but revealing an Earth monster can summon Holy Sue. And if they have a fire and dark monster in hand, you're going to the Shadow Realm. Even if you do Ash it, they just have Holy Sue for the next turn. So you really have to use your game knowledge. Try to figure out as much information as you can. And the fortunate thing about Vanquish Soul is that oftentimes it will give you the information that you need. In Crystron, if they lead off with Smeagol, stopping the Smeagol is probably your best bet, not gonna lie. But sometimes they have the follow-up and you get cooked anyway. So my best advice is to Ash whatever prevents them from being able to summon 2 level 5 monsters, because it's big cook if you don't. For Memento, what I found to be most effective is still using that Ash Blossom against their Creation King. Yes, you can use it on Tatsunoko, but you also open yourself up for K9 plays, and Tatsunoko is a level 5. By stopping the Combined Creation, you potentially prevent your opponent from getting Akihiron to the graveyard, which that combined with Tatsunoko is the rank 5 on top of Memento combo, as well as stopping some other pretty good cards. Now Ghost Bell, my boy. Ghost Bell 100% stops Lupus from summoning itself from the graveyard, and I like using it on my turn when they try to summon Lupus to Exceed summon on my turn, because it's my turn, not your turn. You don't Exceed summon. Against Vanquish Soul, it's pretty good against Rock of the Vanquisher. Ghost Bell on Crystron is pretty good against Sulfinair, and against Memento, well, Memento Fusion allows you to be able to fuse shuffling cards into your deck, so pretty solid against there. But also Akihiron, that card is really, really insane. If you're ever playing against Memento and you start seeing him doing a little bit too much despite you having a huge board, beware of the Akihiron. If that card gets summoned to their side of the field, they can use this effect to allow their level 9 or higher Mementos to attack directly, and they can inflict 8,500 damage this way despite whatever you have on the board. Now that DD Crow Skullmeister combination, whichever one you choose, this card is also amazing at stopping Lupus. Specifically, DD Crow is really good against Lupus. Against Vanquish Soul, use this when Rock of the Vanquisher is trying to pull that attribute that they need. Very strong. Against Crystron, I found it to be pretty good against the Smeagol, and against the meme version, holy crap, there's actually a list of cards. It really depends on the situation with the Memento Fusion, because it gets them a search. The 5,000 Body and Techlecula, because it's 5,000 attack. Really, you want to use it to take away your opponent's most important card at the time. So it just has so many applications. Now, how do you beat K9 when going first? It's actually kind of different. Look, big dog, and hear me out. If you don't activate monster effects in a hand or graveyard, you're doing a good job. Now, I understand not every Yu-Gi-Oh deck can actually do that, but there are times that your opponent can completely cook you, like Exceed summoning on your turn. The first turn, turn 0, very possible for them to do that. But what I found to be pretty effective is Mischief of the Gnomes. Turning their monsters from level 5 to level 4 is pretty good, especially considering that none of these decks play a heavy rank 4 engine. Dimensional Barrier has been okay because it can remove the first element that 2 of the 3 of the decks have, like Memento won't be able to fusion summon and Crystron won't be able to synchro summon, and if you combine that with not activating monster effects in the hand or graveyard, it's actually a lot easier. Some people have been playing cards like Ceremonial Bell or the Eye of Truth. I don't think that those are very effective cards, but a trap card that ironically is good against them is Crush Card Virus. It actually can cook all 3 versions of the deck. All of the K9 monsters just so happen to be over 1,500 attack. And while they will be able to destroy Lupus from their deck, you have to activate card effects in order to trigger Lupus's effect to summon. Also, keep in mind, since your opponent is playing a lot on your turn as well as the opponent's, if you are using hand effects, then Triple Tactics Thrust can get a lot of the cards that I just said before. So it may not be the toughest sledding when going against this deck when going first, but what about going second? Well, a card that's actually decent going first and second is Book of Eclipse. This allows you to be able to flip their K9, Vanquish Soul, and Crystron cards face down, preventing them from Exceed summoning, Link summoning, and Synchro summoning, and also can be a pretty good answer to the board that they make. Keep in mind their K9 spell card of choosing, the quick play card that they use, must be used on a face-up K9 monster. Cards like Dark Ruler No More and Evenly Matched are pretty good against every variant of the deck as well. Keep in mind the Crystron version can summon Cyber Dragon Infinity, so you might have to find a way to force them to use Infinity before you use a card like Evenly Matched or Book of Eclipse. But it's pretty comical how this deck loses to a lot of board breakers. I also think that Harpy's Feather Duster and Lightning Storm are incredibly strong too. And the reason why is because Vanquish Soul's real strength is Vanquish Soul Snow Devil. That card is a genuine devil. Being able to knock that card out as well as the Vanquish Soul Start and some other face down cards that they may have can be clutch. The same thing could be said for Crystron, but unfortunately they make cards like Dawn Draster and Cyber Dragon Infinity, so you have to use it with prejudice. Now I'm not gonna lie, that was probably the toughest part, because in that one little guide I showed you how to beat technically 4 different decks. There's the pure K9, Vanquish Soul, Memento, and Crystron. Bro, I need a break from carrying this weight. Another way to counter your opponent was with the ultimate swag, and I got that on TheCaliEffect.com. Big dogs, I ain't even gonna cap to you. I got the best sleeves and the best mats. We got this little cloth mat back in stock, and I don't think we have a lot. This is the Generations mat, and we have so many other cool accessories. So big dogs, if you want to support the #1 channel in the world while getting something in return, the #1 product, then go ahead and go to TheCaliEffect.com and check out those mats and those sleeves today. Now we're going to move on to the other decks from Justice Hunters. This is a lot easier. Beating Yummy. I actually want to give a shout out to Triff because I was having a really hard time understanding how to beat this deck. The big tip from Yummy that I've learned from my testing is don't let them establish a board. If you can get rid of their normal summon and you know that they don't have follow-up, Yummy loses. Now granted, there are a couple of cards that could be follow-up for them. There's Yummy Surprise and Obedience School right now, but I've been practicing religiously getting rid of their normal summon monster and it's been working out pretty well. Also, keep in mind, if they use Obedience School, they're locked into only summoning beast monsters. This makes their board a lot easier to deal with than dealing with a card like Herald of Arclight to their side of the field. There are times where I will let Obedience School resolve because I know their board is significantly weaker. But moving back to what I was saying, the biggest thing that I struggle with Yummy is how to beat them effectively. Granted, there are some hand traps and cards that you should be using, but Triff said it best. Just get rid of the field spell forehead. Yummy Minion is the only way that this deck can win. Without it, the strongest Yummy monster that they have in their arsenal is 1600 attack. The deck can literally lose to anything from there. If you have a way to banish Yummy Sit Minion, not the other one, then you're putting yourself in a really good spot. Now, of course, Yummy players are probably going to start playing more copies of this card, but if they're only playing one, they're getting sent to the Shadow Realm. Ash Blossom really isn't incredibly strong. You can use it on Obedience School, but again, if you do that, then they won't be locked into beasts. I actually like using it on Cupsy Yummy if they lead off with it, but if I know they have a strong hand, I'll use it on Cupsy Yummy Way. This potentially cuts off a lot of their ability to be able to get deep into their bag. For Infinite Impermanence, I am 1000% not using it on that particular situation. I'm using it on Yummy Snatchy. Snatchy gets them their Yummy field spell to the side of the field, and like I said, we're prejudiced against the field spell. Now, Ghost Bell could be used against the Yummy Synchro monsters to be able to special summon from your graveyard to your side of the field, and it also can be used on Yummy Surprise. Keep in mind, when they activate Yummy Surprise, they're declaring an effect, so if they're activating the first effect to target 2 beast monsters you control and 2 cards your opponent controls, you can't Ghost Spell that. But you can 100% stop them from special summoning a Yummy monster from their hand or graveyard, which is really good if you've already interacted with their first monster and they need this card to follow up. But it's also really good at stopping them from getting their field spell. I said that was a good card, didn't I? Now, when you're going first against Yummy, I want to point out that you are going to have a better time. In fact, Yummy isn't that good at playing into boards, and oftentimes doesn't play enough hand traps to stop you from comboing. But if you need more, don't worry, I got you. Dimensional Barrier to stop them from synchro summoning because it is a synchro heavy deck. Power Filter prevents them from summoning monsters because most of their cards are very weak. And what I really like against the deck are the Solemn cards, because they're crazy. Solemn Judgment stops your opponent's blowout spell cards like Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Droplet, as well as summons. Solemn Warning stops all of their summons in their extenders, and Solemn Strike pretty much stops everything else. I'm not telling you to side all 9 cards against them, but if you play a set of one of of those solemn cards, depending on your deck, you can cook them. The going secondness against Yummy is pretty simple. Dark Ruler No More is a very viable Yu-Gi-Oh card against them. It knocks out all of the Yummy cards on their field, and keep in mind, Yummy monsters can only activate when you activate cards, but Dark Ruler No More says they can't activate cards. Super Polymerization is also pretty strong. Herald of the Arclight just so happens to be a light monster, and they summon other light monsters. That sounds like some food for a Mud Dragon, a Swamp, or Garua to me. Contact C is crazy strong against them because they have to figure out how to link off that bug, and that's not really easy for them to do. And of course, how could I forget? Both Dino Wrestler, Pankratops, and Kashtira Finver summon big bodies to your side of the field without activating any effects. Coincidentally, these cards are also pretty good at getting rid of that field spell when you need it the most, with Finver banishing it face down, so no more field spell for you. I would also like to point out another card, Cosmic Cyclone. I don't think that Cosmic Cyclone is the best card in the world, but get rid of the field spell and other cards. Just keep in mind one thing, if they don't have that card face up, their Yummy monsters are pretty weak. Summoning a strong monster to your side of the field, and they're gonna pretty much struggle to get rid of it. You can control the tempo from there and completely win the game if you play your cards right. But now, we have to talk about Dracotails. My biggest tip for Dracotails is that I don't think that this deck is that strong yet. If your opponent is playing a pure version of Dracotails, rejoice. This deck is not as good. But rather, if they're playing like a Dragon Maid or a branded version, which I think are way better, the deck still has some serious flaws that we can exploit. One being that if you're using Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, there are a few cards that are no-brainers. Any card that allows them to be branded fusion. That means when your opponent's going first, using it on a Rahu and negating them from being able to fuse, don't use it on K2 because you don't have a monster on the field, right? But if you do so happen to have a monster on the field, then you have to use it on K2, which means if you're going first and you establish a board, using Ash Blossom on that card is mandatory. Obviously, you're not going to be able to Ash Blossom both of them, but you could cut off a line, or if your opponent doesn't have access to the second one, they're going to have a hard time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! As for Imperm, I like to use it specifically on the Atheron, the fusion monster, if they're fusing from hand. I made a mistake on the duel challenge by fusing Atheron using monsters on the field and still returning 2 cards. Fortunately, it didn't matter. But if you notice that your opponent is using Atheron by fusing 2 cards in their hand, you imperm that thing. It probably is going to cook them. Allowing them to be able to make their board and then using this on Grammel on your turn is also a thing to do. But keep in mind, you probably should only do this if you know you can't respond to their Dracotail cards they're using. Grammel can only activate its effect if the last thing to activate was a Dracotail card. So if you chain like anything, a random Cold by the Grave, a quick play spell or trap card, a monster effect, anything, they can't use Grammel. Outside of that, the last good card to infinite impermanence against Dracotail is Lucius. If they lead off with Lucius, a lot of times they might be fishing for a Finema, and Finema is one fine card you want to stop. Probably the best imperm target. Now, moving forward on what you should go spell. Well, actually quite a few things to go spell here. Big dogs, I want to point out that most Dracotail players are not stupid. Most. If they're fusing 2 cards to summon out Atheron, they're going to be using their Dracotail monsters as Chain Link 3 and 4 respectively, preventing you from go spelling it. But in the event that your opponent does not do that, you go spell Atheron's effect to add. Other than that, Ghost Bell can actually be a tempo changing card. If you get rid of their Dracotail monsters and they try to special summon them back to the side of the field when 2 monsters are sent to the graveyard, using this card to keep them down is crazy. I also think that Ghost Bell is pretty good against Dracotail Urgula if they're trying to add Finema back into their hand. You'll notice that a couple of lines where they need the Finema to their hand, they'll normally start off by sending Finema and Urgula to the graveyard. That's when you do the you're getting cooked and stop them from re-adding Finema back into their hand. For Diddy Crow, it's a tempo card as well. You can use it on the Dracotail fusion monsters when they resummon, or you can use it on Finema or when Urgula tries to revive Finema. Pretty much the same thing can be said for Skullmeister. It's pretty much the same. And that's going to wrap us up for the hand traps, moving on to when you're going first. One thing I want to point out is that Dracotail can fuse on your turn 0. There is the possibility that they make El Shaddoll Window on your turn 0, but it's not likely. It requires them to have the Shaddoll Beast, Finema, and another card to fuse. And if I remember correctly, Shaddoll Dragon requires a dark monster and a Shaddoll, so again, not highly likely. How to easily beat this deck is cards like Non-Fusion Area because it is a fusion-based deck. Soul Drain is also really good for preventing them from activating monster effects in the graveyard. And Gravekeeper's Inscription is a Boom! Knockout in the park. There's also some other usable cards like Dimensional Fissure if that's your fancy, but those cards are going to be some of the best when you're starting off. When you're siding against this deck, holy boy, Retaliating Sea is crazy strong. It is a macro Cosmos that can summon itself to the side of the field when they try to fuse. And since it's getting rid of their Dracotail monsters that they're fusing off, they're not going to get those effects to set. Super Polymerization to Secretarian Dragon is also a complete game winner against them. Secretarian Dragon prevents them from using what? Dragons and spellcasters? And last time I checked, they were Dragons and spellcasters. So you should be pretty well off stopping Dracotail because the cards that do hit the deck incredibly hard. But that's all that I have for the meta counter guide. Everything that I've learned so far in a 20-hour period. If I'm being honest with you guys, I think it was way longer than 20 hours, but that's the only time that I actually accounted for. Because, you know, I like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With my friends, and we like to do bad things like smoke with cigarettes. Of course, big dogs, if you want to see more amazing content like this, be sure to check out these videos. And also, remember to have an amazing day. Hug your mom. If you ever lose to somebody you don't like, or if you ever lose to one of these decks, keep in mind, I got your back. Your family does too. You'll get it the next time. Until then, big dogs, go ahead and check out these videos, because I can't wait to see you on the next one.